If someone can control your emotions without saying a single word, you're not in a relationship anymore. You're in a power dynamic. And silence is the weapon. Not every quiet moment is manipulation. Sometimes people need space. Sometimes people genuinely get busy. But when silence becomes a pattern, when it appears exactly when you need clarity, it stops being space. It becomes control. You send a simple message. Nothing dramatic. Just normal communication. Hey, are you okay? You see that she's online. You see her active. Maybe she even watched your story. But your message stays unanswered. An hour passes. Then 2. Then half a day. Your brain starts doing what the human brain always does when it faces uncertainty. It fills the silence with explanations. Maybe she's upset. Maybe you said something wrong. Maybe she's losing interest. So you send another message, softer this time. Did I say something wrong? Now your nervous system is fully activated. You keep checking your phone. You reread the conversation. You analyze every word you sent. And suddenly your emotional state depends on one small notification. That's the moment silence stops being neutral and starts becoming leverage. Silence is powerful because the human brain hates uncertainty. Psychologically, when communication disappears, the brain interprets it as a threat. Your nervous system moves into a state of anxiety and alertness. You start seeking reassurance. This is especially common in anxious, avoidant relationship dynamics. The anxious partner tries to close emotional distance through communication. The avoidant partner regulates emotions through withdrawal and space. But when someone learns that their silence makes you chase them, the dynamic slowly shifts. Your attention becomes the reward. Their silence becomes the trigger. And that creates a power imbalance. The first sign is when silence appears immediately after conflict. Healthy relationships don't avoid tension. People talk through disagreements, even when it's uncomfortable. But if every time you express frustration, disagreement, or honesty, she disappears, something subtle begins to happen. You start editing yourself. You stop bringing up issues. You choose peace over honesty just to avoid being ignored again. Now the relationship is no longer balanced. You're managing her reactions instead of expressing your real thoughts. Another sign is when she only becomes responsive the moment you stop chasing. When you text her, the energy feels distant. Short replies. Delayed responses. Cold tone. But the moment you pull back, the moment you stop initiating, suddenly she appears. Hey stranger. What happened to you? This creates something psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism used in gambling. When rewards are unpredictable, the brain releases stronger dopamine signals. You become hooked on the moments when she suddenly gives you attention again. Not because the relationship is strong, but because the uncertainty is addictive. Another pattern shows up through the simple act of leaving messages on read. You send a message. She reads it, then disappears. Now your brain starts interpreting that silence. Was the message stupid? Did you sound needy? Did you say too much? But the truth is simple. People consistently respond to things they value. When someone repeatedly leaves you sitting in uncertainty, it often means they are comfortable letting you sit there. Another sign is when silence appears the moment you ask direct questions. You ask something clear. Where is this going? Are you still talking to your ex? What do you actually want from this? And suddenly communication stops. No answer. No clarity. Just distance. Silence here becomes a shield. It allows someone to avoid accountability while still keeping the relationship alive. Ambiguity benefits the person with less emotional investment. There's also the pattern where silence becomes a form of punishment. You say something she doesn't like. Maybe you express a boundary. Maybe you disagree. Instead of addressing it, she disappears. A day passes. maybe 2. Then she comes back acting normal. Over time, this conditions your behavior. Your brain learns that honesty leads to emotional withdrawal. So you become more careful, more agreeable, less authentic. That's how silence slowly reshapes your behavior without a single argument ever happening. Another sign appears in selective communication. When she wants something, attention, validation, help, emotional support, she becomes responsive again. Messages come quickly. Conversations flow. But the moment you need emotional presence, the silence returns. This isn't mutual connection. This is one-sided engagement disguised as a relationship. Eventually you start noticing something deeper inside yourself. You feel more anxiety than peace. Healthy relationships regulate your nervous system. You feel calmer around the person. Your mind feels stable. But when silence becomes a control pattern, your nervous system stays in constant alert mode. You check your phone constantly. Your mood changes depending on whether she replies. Your mind becomes obsessed with interpreting signals. That's not attraction anymore. That's emotional dependency. The final sign is when you start blaming yourself for her silence. Instead of questioning her behavior, you question your worth. Maybe I text too much. Maybe I'm too emotional. Maybe I should just be more patient. The brain does this to protect the relationship. It's easier to blame yourself than to accept that someone may not value you the same way you value them. But silence doesn't always mean mystery. Sometimes it just means indifference. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Silence only becomes powerful when you react to it. The more you chase explanations, the more you send follow-up messages, the more you try to repair things that were never clearly broken, the more control silence gains over your emotional state. Because attention is currency in relationships. And whoever controls its flow controls the dynamic. There's also a deeper behavioral difference that often appears in these situations. Many men respond to emotional uncertainty by trying to fix the situation. They pursue clarity. They ask questions. They attempt to repair the connection. Many women, especially those with avoidant tendencies, respond to emotional tension by creating distance. They step back. They go quiet. They wait. When these two patterns collide, a cycle forms. The more he chases communication, the more she withdraws. The more she withdraws, the more he chases. Both people feel misunderstood. But the deeper realization most people resist is this. If someone consistently chooses silence instead of communication, they are showing you their emotional capacity. Not everyone has the maturity to maintain honest connection. Not everyone wants the same depth of relationship you do. And chasing clarity from someone who avoids it will slowly drain your self-respect. The real shift happens when you stop interpreting silence. You stop analyzing every delay, every unread message, every moment of distance. Instead, you observe patterns. Because behavior repeated over time always tells the truth. Respect in relationships doesn't come from demanding responses. It comes from deciding what behavior you will and will not tolerate. And the moment you stop reacting emotionally to silence, its power disappears. Because sometimes the loudest truth in a relationship isn't what someone says. It's what they consistently choose not to say.